Alright, Diablo 4 players, let's go over all of the best skills and the must plays on the skill tree for the Rogue here in 2025 and Season 9. So for starters, I want to go over kind of why we want to play these. In basically all of the meta builds, you're going to see these time and time again, the same exact skills. So let's go ahead and go over that, as well as the key passives that may want to be considered to grab. So for starters, in terms of an aspect, it definitely depends on your build, but there is one that's in every single build, and that is the Umbrous aspect. And what it does is when you crit an enemy, you have a chance to gain a Dark Shroud, which is going to give us free damage reduction. It also can give us offensive stats as well, which we will get into, but it's mainly used for survivability. So that is an absolute must play for a lot of different builds. I'm not going to go too far into like gear, as this video is going to focus in on basically the skills, but what this allows you to do is unequip your skill Dark Shroud on your bar, but you can still actually actively gain these Dark Shrouds. That's why this is kind of like a must play for every single build. And then for pretty much majority of builds, you're going to want to play Dark Shroud. Now, you don't actually have to equip it because of this, but it's just here to go ahead and facilitate the idea that you want to play Dark Shroud on your build. Another really great skill is Dash. This is going to activate a lot of different things. So nowadays, in a lot of Rogue builds, you're going to be playing a lot of the legendary nodes on the Paragon board that give you a bonus if you maybe activate a Cutthroat skill or specifically an Agility skill, and that's going to grant you a damage multiplier. But it also gives you an additional 10% critical strike chance, which is a buff that you can kind of utilize, and it's going to be great for that reason. That's why you're seeing it in a lot of builds. And then Caltrops. So what Caltrops does is it throws some stuff on the ground, and you're going to see consistently a lot of top tier builds run this because it just gives you a lot of damage. And that is because, well, of course, it just ramps up in damage. You can also get a massive amount of crit, and if you get the node that can actually apply the chill, which we'll talk about, it is going to be huge for the Rogue class. And then next up, I mean, I'm showing Death Trap gameplay here from a previous season, but if you aren't playing specifically the Death Trap or the Rain of Arrows build, Shadow Clone actually received a buff in Season 9, giving you additional damage reduction while it is active. The reason why a lot of people like Shadow Clone, even though it may not deal a lot of damage, there's a lot of bonuses that can activate via doing X amount of damage that is non-physical or just even physical with, like, let's say Chip. There's a lot of different things that can go into the Shadow Clone activating some sort of a bonus. But it's really granting you additionally the Unstoppable, so that can actually break CC, which is quite nice as well. But again, it did get a buff with the damage reduction in Season 9. And then if you are playing a build that is able to utilize specifically non-physical damage, there is a bonus modifier where you get an X of 20x on non-physical damage to enemies standing inside the poison trap. You can also temper on the duration, so this can actually extend. Or if you run the Icarus Rose, which are the new unique gloves, you can basically get this number to go up even higher. And then we have the Smoke Grenade. This is really utilized for the top tier pit pushing builds. You may not have to include it in every single build that is not necessarily for pit pushing, but if you are doing speed content, this thing is still good. If you need the additional damage on the boss, you can just tap it and it will give you a nice little 25x. So those are the main skills that you definitely want to go ahead and lock in and play. Now, I want to also make this video about the passives because this is a big area to get a lot of damage, especially because there's a lot of newer players in the game because, you know, the game went free recently on PlayStation. So as far as the Rogue goes, and we're going to be doing all of the classes here, but since today's Rogue, the first few skill points, unless you're playing like Heartseeker, which is the only really meta basic skill build, the first couple points don't matter. Now we've evolved from the previous sections of the game where we would have to run a basic, then we would run a core skill. So obviously, if you're choosing whatever core skill that you're using, you want to put more points into that. But you're going to see time and time again, people take target practice unless you are doing a build that focuses on, let's say, like an Azarath, but specifically your critical strike chance with your Cutthroat and Marksman skills, just getting free crit is really good. And then Sturdy is pretty much taken in every single build, which will grant you damage reduction. And then there are a lot of builds also that will take Shadow Step if you have an extra like skill slot. This just lets you teleport through walls. It's great for speed content. And then we also have caltrops. Now, both of the upgrades for caltrops are actually pretty good. There's the chill one, so if you have Frigid Finesse, this is how you're going to activate it. But even if you don't take the chill one, the bosses will still be affected by a chill or a freeze. When they build up that stagger bar, they're affected by all crowd controls all at once. You don't even have to apply the freeze. But this can actually freeze the enemies, grant you additional damage based on maybe control or, again, Frigid Finesse, which is a great passive. But you can also take the crit one if you do need it. Now over here, Weapons Mastery is kind of like a key passive that's in every single build. It just gives you a damage multiplier. And then there's a lot of builds that will run Unstable Elixirs to stun enemies, as well as getting extra damage. Now, if you are playing a dot build, you really don't need this one, although Critical Strike chance is still good here. Most builds will take this one, just as a heads up, but if you're playing a dot build, you don't necessarily need it. But it still can be good, again, because you're getting that Critical Strike chance. But it really is there for the critical strike damage as well. So whenever you daze an enemy or stun an enemy, which you could just put 1 point to Unstable Elixirs here, and then when you pop your potion, it will stun. These are both great stats, but again, some builds may not want to actually run it. There's also this increased damage after evading that some people do take, but it's just a little bit clunky to have to pop potion and evade, activate your imbues, and then maybe even activate your smoke grenade or your poison trap before you go for your big damage. But again, with the dash, this is the one that most people will grant themselves. You're going to always get the crit. That's usually what it's used for. There is a knockdown one, which some people have used, but pretty much this is kind of a skill that it's very, very common to get the additional charge, just so you can go as fast as possible. As far as the concealment, this actually took a nerf. It used to have, like, your next skill would grant yourself that guaranteed crit and vulnerable, and you would basically snapshot it. But now it is a duration, so that has actually been updated in Season 9. But Smoke Grenade still is pretty good because you get 25x damage, again, which I've already mentioned. But then you can also take the one where if you hit a elite or boss, it's going to reduce the cooldown by 5 seconds. And if you have enough points into like cooldown reductions by putting it in here or just in general, you can pretty much have it 100% uptime. If you also need to proc for Alchemic Advantage, this is a very common thing where you're going to get some sort of poison damage just so you can activate that other node on the tree, it is worth it to get the additional poison here. And then Exploit and Malice are very common. It's just free damage multipliers. Again, very common. If you are playing a build that is non-physical damage, then Poison Trap is going to be excellent for pushing. Now, this is where it kind of gets interesting. So, Frigid Finesse, even if you do not have the ability to chill or freeze, if you build up that stagger bar, the boss is then affected by all crowd control, so therefore this is still good. A lot of times there could be some sort of powers, even in Season 8 and Season 9, you could just activate a freeze with your powers, and therefore you could then activate this even when the boss is not staggered, as long as it's like some trash mob, because you cannot just instantly chill the boss until the stagger bar is up. But over here, a lot of people will put 1 point into Deadly Venom just because Alchemic Advantage gives you lucky hit chance and attack speed. This is a very, very good one, especially getting this on the amulet and getting this masterworked is a huge upgrade for a lot of different builds. And you will then have to fit in some sort of poison damage into your build. It is not seen in, I would say, 100% of builds, but I would say at the higher end, a lot of people will try to fit this in, even in Azrath builds that's kind of based on cold. You do want to get that lucky hit chance and attack speed. Maybe Endarios, for whatever reason, gets buffed in the upcoming future, and this is going to be even better because you're already doing poison damage. But again, lucky hit chance is very, very key for a lot of builds, and a lot of people will take Frigid Finesse. If you are playing any builds that can take advantage of the mixed cold imbuement, where you get to get a 20x and then it gets doubled against frozen enemies, because they did recently buffed up one of the key passives in Season 9, which is the Alchemic Admixture. This could be one to consider, but for the most part, it depends if you're playing any of the imbuments here. And then as far as the bottom section over here, a lot of people will be wanting to take Shadow Clone now and in the future if you don't know what ultimate to play. And nowadays with Rogue, you pretty much have to play a ultimate because there is a no witness legendary node that is very powerful. It just gives you up to a 40x multiplier on damage, and the reason why everyone's playing this skill mostly and Death Trap is because Rain of Arrows has a long cooldown and its animation is actually pretty terrible, but like Shadow Clone is relatively fast, and again it got buffed in Season 9, and that's why a lot of people are locking this one in. But if you want to group up enemies for big explosions, Death Trap is not a bad option either if you just need to play the ultimate movement to facilitate that bonus for your No Witness legendary node. But again, I like having this additional damage reduction. It is quite nice. And then this is in every single rogue build, second wind over here, so that's going to give you 45% of our maximum life as barrier every 100 energy we spend. And a lot of builds, you're going to spend so much energy. I know in this one, it doesn't even look like I'm spending energy, but my energy is going all the way down and all the way back up. And it pretty much gives rogue almost immortality on a decent build towards the end game. This barrier is absolutely massive. Now, as far as the key passive, there isn't one to absolutely lock in. Before, for a long time, it was like close quarters combat no matter what, but they have actually buffed a bunch of the other ones. There isn't one I would say that like you absolutely have to lock in as far as key passive, but pretty much these are all of the passive nodes as well as the skills that you absolutely want to try to lock in and play in 2025 for the rogue. So hopefully this video guide was informative and you learned something new. If there's anything that I missed out on, definitely let me know down below. But yeah, these are the things that you want to lock in. And also, as far as the best specialization, it's pretty much been preparation because it lets you have no cooldown and your ultimate is almost always up. And it also grants you another 15% damage reduction. There's just no good choice besides preparation in this day and age. Combo points used to be good back when there was a bug where you can get 22 of them, but pretty much it's been preparation. So that is going to be the best specialization as well. Anyways, that's going to wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn the bell, because we're going to cover all of the classes in the game. But I figured this video was pretty important because there's always new players jumping in the game. There's just a new update. And so this is, as of right now, Season 9, but we'll update you guys in the future if there needs to be one. Anyways, take care, gamers. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.